On the morning of my 60th birthday, I baked a cake. The house smelled like vanilla and hope. Part of me still believed they might come with balloons or even just smiles. But when the doorbell rang, it wasn't laughter or love waiting for me. It was my son Michael, standing there with a cold grin and a sign in his hands that read, "Congrats to the new owner." Behind him, a moving truck was already unloading my furniture onto the sidewalk. "You signed the papers," he said casually, as if that explained everything. I stared at him, feeling the chill spread through my body, but I didn't let my face show it. I just smiled. "Yes, I did," I replied, my voice steady. He didn't know that I'd already packed a small suitcase that morning. Clothes, toiletries, and a locked wooden box, one he didn't know existed. That box held everything I'd need for what was coming next. Michael's face looked so much like his father's in that moment. Handsome, sharp, and distant. But his eyes, those cold blue eyes, no longer held warmth. They scanned me like I was just one more task to finish before dinner. "The retirement community has your room ready," he said. "Rebecca's waiting in the car with the kids." Rebecca didn't even bother getting out. She gave me a lazy wave through the window, and the grandchildren were too busy with their tablets to look up. He nodded. "Let me just grab my purse." Inside, the house felt like it was holding its breath. I touched the dining table, the same one where Michael had once practiced writing his name, where I'd worked double shifts to afford his favorite birthday meals. I walked through the living room I'd built piece by piece over 35 years, taking one final look at everything. Most of it would be sold, thrown out, or claimed by people who never earned it. I picked up my bag and left. The car ride was quiet. Michael tried to make conversation about the weather, about how nice the facility was. Rebecca nodded at the right times but didn't speak. When we arrived at Sunny Pines, it looked exactly how I imagined it would. Beige walls, beige carpets, beige furniture. The only thing that stood out was the faint smell of medicine buried beneath the scent of disinfectant. The director, Mrs. Chambers, welcomed me with a polished smile. "We're so happy to have you join our family," she said. The word family hit me like a slap. My room was small, barely enough space to turn around. A bed, a dresser, a tiny television, and a window that faced the parking lot. I told Michael it was perfect. I even thanked him. He looked relieved. "We should get going. The kids have soccer practice," he said. Rebecca hugged me stiffly. "We'll visit soon." Michael hesitated, then pulled me into a quick embrace. "This is for the best, Mom," he whispered. "The house was too much for you." He nodded. "I understand." And I did understand, more than he could ever imagine. I understood that the house, now worth 3 times what I paid for it, was already listed for sale. I understood that the money would vanish into his failing business. I understood that the documents I'd signed, so conveniently during what he called a senior moment, were designed to take everything from me. What he didn't understand was that I'd seen it all coming. And I wasn't done yet. That evening, once their car was out of sight, I sat on the narrow bed in that sterile room and pulled out my phone. My hands were steady, my breath calm. I dialed Dorothy, my neighbor and oldest friend. "They're gone," I said. "Is everything ready?" "Just as you planned," she replied. "Martin has the documents. Irene is standing by. Are you sure about this?" I looked around the room, the cramped space that was supposed to be my end. More sure than I've ever been. After we hung up, I opened the wooden box and reviewed its contents. Copies of every bank statement, forged signature, and transfer Michael thought I'd never notice. Voice recordings of whispered conversations with Rebecca. Most importantly, a second set of documents, witnessed and notarized by my lawyer, that clearly showed my son's fraud. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was building a wall around myself, brick by brick, so that when the time came, he couldn't knock it down. That night I didn't sleep much. Not from worry, but from clarity. My mind replayed every moment I'd overlooked, every excuse I'd made for Michael. I remembered the first time I co-signed a loan for him and how quickly he defaulted. How he cried when I mortgaged the house a second time just to keep his business afloat. How he swore it was temporary, that he'd make it all back and more. And I believed him. Again and again I believed him. Not because he deserved it, but because I was his mother. The next morning I met Detective Irene Kemp at a small coffee shop 3 blocks from Sunny Pines. She was younger than I expected, with sharp eyes and a blunt manner I liked immediately. After we ordered, she opened her folder. "Mrs. Wilson, what you've given us is more than enough. This is a textbook case of elder financial abuse. And what happens now?" "Yes. We can go 2 ways. Move fast, freeze accounts, arrest him within days. Or build a more thorough case and hit him harder later. I want it done right, ironclad, in public. And I want to be the one who tells him." Detective Kemp's mouth curved into a faint smile. "I understand." For the next 2 weeks I lived 2 lives. By day, I was the sweet, cooperative new resident of Sunny Pines, adjusting well to bingo and bland meals. The staff praised my positive attitude. I smiled and played along. What they didn't see were the meetings. My afternoon walks were really visits with Martin and Detective Kemp. We reviewed transactions, tracked timelines, and uncovered things I hadn't even known. Michael's scheme went back at least 3 years. He and Rebecca had been planning this long before I noticed the missing documents or strange activity on my bank statements. The most painful moment came when Martin showed me texts Michael had sent to Rebecca the day before he moved me out. Finally getting rid of the old lady tomorrow. House should sell for at least $600K. Her reply. Thank God. If I have to sit through one more of her boring birthday dinners, I'll scream. I read those words in silence. Dorothy cried. Martin looked away. I felt nothing but resolve. "We have everything," I told them. "Now it's time for Phase 2. Phase 2 started with a phone call to Justin, Michael's oldest son. He was 19, away at college, and had always been a little different from the rest of the family. Quieter, more thoughtful. I had been paying his tuition for over a year, though he didn't know that. Michael took credit for it just like he did for everything I had provided. "Grandma, is everything okay at the home?" Justin sounded genuinely concerned. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said. "But we need to talk. It's about your college tuition." There was a long pause. Dad said, "He said you've been confused lately. That you think you've been paying for school, but it was actually him." "I see," I replied calmly. "And did he ever tell you where that money came from?" Another pause. "No. I'm going to send you some documents," I said. "Take a look. Then decide for yourself what's been happening." After we ended the call, I sent him bank statements showing the direct payments from my account to his school. I included the messages between his parents about moving me out and hiding assets. I didn't wait long. That evening my phone rang. "Is it all true?" Justin's voice trembled with anger. "Did Dad really steal your money and put you in that place?" "Yes," I said simply. "I'll come get you." "No," I said quickly. "That's not what I need. I need you to go to your parents' house tomorrow night at 6. Bring Lily if you can. There's something important you both need to see." "What are you going to do?" he asked, suddenly unsure. "I'm going to teach your father the lesson I should have taught him 30 years ago," I answered. "That everything in life has a price." After he hung up, I called Detective Kemp. "We're ready," I told her. "Tomorrow at 6. That night, I slept better than I had in years. I dreamed of wind and waves, of standing tall and strong against a storm. When I woke the next morning, I took my time. I wore a navy dress from my suitcase, one I used to wear to parent-teacher conferences and job interviews. A dress for serious moments. "Don't you look sharp today, Mrs. Wilson," Mrs. Chambers said at breakfast. "Special plans?" "Yes," I said, sipping my coffee. "My son is expecting me." After breakfast, I went to Martin's office for one last review. The paperwork was perfect. Financial records, text messages, witness statements, phone recordings. Everything laid out and ready. He slid one last document across the desk, a restraining order. "Once it's served, Michael won't be allowed near you again." and the power of attorney has been officially revoked. Good, I said. I want him to hear it all from me. Martin hesitated. Helen, are you absolutely sure you want to go through with this? Pressing criminal charges against your own child? I looked him in the eye. When my husband left, all I had left was Michael. I built my life around him. Worked myself into the ground. I turned down promotions, opportunities, even love, just to give him everything I could. And he repaid me by treating me like garbage to be taken out. Yes, Martin. I'm sure. He nodded. Then let's finish this. Detective Kemp picked me up at exactly 3 o'clock. We drove to the police station first, where I signed the final paperwork and filed the official complaint. Officers Jennings and Morales will meet us there, she explained as we left. They'll stay outside unless things get out of hand. Their presence usually keeps things calm. Will he be arrested today? Yes. That depends on him. We have enough to bring him in now, but if he stays calm and cooperates, we can arrange a formal surrender later. That's fine, I said. As long as he understands exactly what he's done. We arrived at my old house at 5:45 p.m. The 2 patrol cars parked quietly down the street. Dorothy was already waiting in her car across the road. 5:55, Justin pulled up with Lily. She looked nervous, unsure why she was there. Justin's jaw was tight. His eyes unreadable. Grandma, Lily whispered. What's going on? Justin wouldn't tell me anything. I took her hand gently. You'll understand soon, dear. We're just putting some things right. They followed me up the familiar walkway to the door I had once opened every morning. At exactly 6 o'clock, I rang the bell. That old chime still echoed through the house. After a moment the door opened. Michael stood there in a polo shirt and slacks, the picture of casual confidence. That look vanished the moment he saw Detective Kemp beside me. Mom, what are you doing here? He asked. His eyes darted to Justin and Lily. Is something wrong? We need to talk, I said. May we come in? His suspicion flared, but he stepped back. Sure, come in. Rebecca appeared from the kitchen with a towel in her hand. The house had changed. My furniture was gone. My photos, my curtains, my colors. All erased. Helen, she said tightly. This is a surprise. We were just sitting down to eat. This won't take long, I replied. We gathered around the same dining table where I had once helped Michael with math homework. I sat at the head and looked at them calmly. Michael, Rebecca. This is Detective Irene Kemp from the Financial Crimes Unit. I've filed formal charges against you both for elder abuse, fraud, embezzlement, and theft. Silence fell like a stone. Rebecca's face turned ghost white. Michael blinked. What? That's insane. Detective Kemp opened her folder and began laying out the evidence. Copies of forged checks, transfer records, email printouts, texts. You moved $478,000 from your mother's accounts to your own over 26 months, she said. You forged her signature. You transferred her property illegally. And you conspired to isolate her in a care facility to complete the theft. Michael's voice rose. That's a lie. Mom, tell them. You signed everything willingly. I never signed anything willingly, I said. I let you think I did. I needed time to gather proof. This is ridiculous, he shouted. Rebecca, call Dr. Winters. She's having an episode. Kemp didn't even look up. We also have your texts, Mr. Wilson, including one sent the night before you moved your mother out. Finally getting rid of the old lady tomorrow. Lily gasped. Justin stood up from his chair, moving behind me protectively. We were trying to protect her, Rebecca said suddenly. She wasn't managing her money. Is that why you spent $3000 on my credit card the day after you moved me into Sunny Pines? Yes. On clothes. Rebecca went silent. Michael stood, fists clenched, towering over the table. You set us up. You were pretending this whole time. Your own family. I was protecting myself. I said evenly. From you. Detective Kemp remained calm. Mr. Wilson, the DA is pursuing charges. The fraud alone carries 5 to 10 years in prison. Michael's bravado cracked. Mom, please. Think about the kids. You can't do this to us. I am thinking about the kids, I said, turning to Justin and Lily. They deserve the truth. You ungrateful, Michael began, but I cut him off. What have you ever done for me? Asked, my voice sharper now. Dropped out of college I paid for? Defaulted on loans I co-signed. Took the home I built and tossed me aside. No, Michael. You don't get to play the victim. Justin stepped forward, face red. Stop it, Dad. I saw everything. The tuition, the transfers. Grandma paid for it all. Not you. Rebecca turned to Michael, confused. Is that true? Before he could answer, I placed a final document on the table. This is a restraining order. You are no longer allowed near me or Sunny Pines. You can't be serious, he whispered. I've never been more serious. And your accounts? Frozen. The house sale. Blocked. The DA will see to the rest. Michael looked like the ground had fallen from beneath him. You're destroying this family. No, I said, standing. You did that yourself. Then I turned to my grandchildren. Justin. Lily. None of this is your fault. And nothing changes between us. I'll always be your grandmother. Lily wiped her tears. Justin nodded, jaw tight. Detective, I said. I believe we're finished here. As we turned to leave, Michael's voice cracked behind me. Mom, please. His voice trembled now, not with anger but with something else. Panic. Mom, please. We can fix this. I'll pay it back. Don't do this. I stopped at the doorway and looked back at the boy I once raised. The man who wore his face like a stranger. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel rage. I felt a quiet certainty. It's already done, Michael. And I stepped outside. The air felt different, lighter, sharper, as if some weight had finally lifted from my chest. Rebecca's shouting began behind me, desperate and shrill. Michael's voice followed, cracking with disbelief. The sound faded as we walked down the front steps. In the car, Detective Kemp watched me closely. Are you all right, Mrs. Wilson? Yes, I answered honestly. For the first time in a very long time. That night, I didn't return to Sunny Pines. Dorothy had set up her guest room, and I stayed there instead, drinking tea in silence while the world I once knew crumbled behind me. My phone buzzed nonstop. Dozens of missed calls from Michael. Voice messages from Rebecca, crying. Confused texts from distant cousins who were just starting to hear the rumors. I ignored them all. The only calls I answered were from Justin and Lily. Dad got served with more papers this morning, Justin told me 3 days later. He's drinking a lot. Mom keeps crying and calling her parents. And how are you doing? Asked gently. I'm processing. Lily's taking it harder. She didn't know any of it. I never wanted to hurt you, I said. I know, Grandma. But we needed to see the truth. On the 5th day, Martin called. It's official, he said. The DA filed 10 counts. Elder financial abuse, fraud, forgery, grand theft. Michael was arrested this morning. My heart didn't skip a beat. And he posted bail a few hours later. The house is still tied up. The court issued a stay on any property transaction. He can't touch it now. Later that evening, Detective Kemp visited me at Dorothy's. He's hired Stanley Greenberg, she said, accepting the tea I poured. Big name. White-collar expert. Can he get Michael off? Unlikely. The evidence is airtight. What Greenberg will try to do is negotiate a plea deal. Minimize jail time. Pause. You should prepare yourself, Mrs. Wilson. This case is getting attention. The press might pick it up. A son stealing $500,000 from his own mother. Elder abuse is finally starting to get the spotlight it deserves. I understand, I said. His reputation, his business, everything, it'll be gone. I nodded slowly. When Michael was 7, He fell out of a tree in our backyard. Broke his arm. In the ER, he asked me if I was mad at him. I told him no. I said sometimes the consequence is the lesson. That pain teaches us what not to do next time. Kemp looked at me with new understanding. And what's the lesson this time? That consequences don't disappear just because you share blood. The next day, the story hit the news. Local outlets led with it. Prominent businessman charged in elder abuse case involving his mother. The photo showed Michael shielding his face from cameras outside the courthouse. By that evening, regional networks had picked it up. On social media, strangers weighed in with opinions and outrage. Then, out of nowhere, I received a call. It was Thomas, Michael's former business partner. The one Michael had pushed out 5 years ago. Mrs. Wilson. I just saw the news, he said. I wanted to tell you. Sorry. What Michael did to you. It wasn't the first time. You suspected something before? I did more than suspect. There were missing invoices. Misplaced funds. When I confronted him, he threatened to ruin my career. I had kids to feed, so I took a settlement and left. Would you be willing to make a statement? There was no hesitation. Yes. It's time someone stopped him. And he wasn't the only one. In the days that followed, others came forward. Former clients, employees, even distant relatives who'd been manipulated or cheated. Piece by piece, the picture sharpened. This wasn't just a recent betrayal. It had been Michael's way of life for decades. And I wasn't the only one who'd paid the price. With every new testimony, Michael's carefully built image crumbled further. His story of being a devoted businessman and loyal family man was replaced by whispers of scams, broken contracts, and unpaid debts. Martin compiled each statement, stacking them alongside the original evidence like bricks forming a wall around the truth, one even the most expensive lawyer couldn't climb. While that part of the battle moved forward, I began stitching together a new life. Martin helped me find a small, one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't large or fancy, but it was mine. I paid for it using funds I had hidden years ago. Money even Michael hadn't known existed. I furnished it simply, with soft colors and second-hand furniture that felt like home. No photos of Michael. No reminders of the house I had lost. Just light and peace. I started volunteering at the local library 3 mornings a week. I organized books, helped with the children's reading program, and found unexpected joy in the quiet hum of people looking for stories. Dorothy visited often, bringing muffins and news. You look lighter, she said one morning, watching me rearrange a bookshelf. Like you're finally breathing again. I think I am, I replied. One afternoon, 3 weeks after the confrontation, my phone rang. It was Rebecca. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Helen, she said, her voice hollow. I don't know what to say. Then maybe you shouldn't say anything. Please just listen. She took a shaky breath. Michael hasn't been the same these past few years. Always stressed, always hiding something. I went along with it because it was easier than fighting. I said nothing. I'm not trying to defend what we did. I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Truly. For my part in it. I let the silence stretch before answering. Is that all? No. I'm filing for divorce. I can't stay with him after this. The children won't speak to him. Our friends have disappeared. The business is collapsing. Everything's falling apart. There was no satisfaction in hearing it, only a quiet sense of inevitability. And you're telling me this because Lily and Justin still need their grandmother. They need someone they can trust. On that point, at least we agreed. The following Sunday, I invited them both to my apartment for lunch. Lily arrived first, hovering in the doorway until I pulled her into a long hug. Justin came a few minutes later, carrying flowers and a handmade card. We ate simple sandwiches and talked about their classes, their friends, their plans. They were careful, skirting around the elephant in the room. It was Lily who finally asked, "Grandma, will Dad go to jail?" I set down my cup. Most likely, yes. The evidence is strong. For how long? Justin asked. Martin says if he takes the plea deal, maybe 2 to 3 years. They looked at each other, sad, confused, angry. I could see the whirlwind inside them. I know this is hard, I said. Whatever you're feeling, anger, sadness, guilt, it's all okay. He's your father. That doesn't disappear overnight. Lily's voice cracked. He lied to us. About everything. My car, college, the business. He told people he was the one doing it all. He nodded. I don't even know who he is anymore, she whispered. You don't have to figure that out right now, I told her gently. You just have to know that none of this is your fault. Justin, who had been quiet, finally spoke. He called me yesterday. Asked for money. Said his accounts were frozen. What did you do? Asked. I hung up. You did the right thing. You don't owe him anything. Not money, not answers, not even forgiveness if you're not ready. Lily hesitated, then asked. Do you hate him? The question hung in the room like smoke. No, I said after a long pause. I don't hate him. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. I'm angry. But I'm also free. And that freedom means I get to choose how to live now. Not based on pain or loyalty, but on truth. They both nodded. Before leaving, they promised to visit again next weekend. After they left, I sat in the quiet of my small apartment. On the wall, one photo remained. Michael at age 7, toothless grin, arm in a cast. I kept it not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder of who he once was, and how far he had fallen. That night, a text buzzed through. A number I hadn't blocked. It was from Michael. Just a single message. Mom, please. I'm being destroyed. Everything's gone. My lawyer says I could get 10 years. I'm begging you, we're family. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't feel rage or regret. I typed 6 words. Sometimes the consequence is the lesson. Then I hit send. And blocked his number for good. The next morning I rose early, brewed a fresh pot of coffee, and sat by the window watching the first light spill across the sky. I had a meeting with Martin later to discuss the civil case, then my usual volunteer shift at the library, and lunch with Dorothy. It wasn't anything extraordinary, but it was mine. My day, my time, my choices. As I sipped my coffee, I realized this journey had never just been about justice or revenge. It wasn't about proving Michael wrong or punishing him. It was about something much deeper. ***, reclaiming the part of myself I had quietly given away over the years ***. The part that had been buried under sacrifice, under duty, under a love that had asked too much and returned too little. 8 months passed like pages in a novel, some slow and heavy, others light and quick. Winter thawed into spring, and spring gave way to a warm, forgiving summer. I no longer counted days by court filings or news updates, but by book club meetings, watercolor classes, and the soft voices of children during story hour. I had built a life different from the one I'd known, but more honest. Michael eventually accepted a plea deal. 3 years in a minimum security facility, full restitution of all stolen funds, and 5 years of probation after release. His sentencing was scheduled for September. ***, on my 61st birthday ***. I couldn't help but notice the symmetry. Will you attend the hearing? Martin had asked me during a quiet meeting. No, I said. I've said everything I needed to say. Rebecca's divorce went through quickly. She moved to Arizona to live with her sister, leaving behind the house and most of the furniture. The court ordered the house sold, with proceeds going toward restitution. I passed by it once just out of curiosity. The for sale sign was gone, replaced by a young couple and a toddler playing in the front yard. There were fresh flowers where my garden used to be. It didn't sting as much as I thought it would. Justin finished his sophomore year with honors and stayed on campus for summer classes. Lily, who had moved in with her best friend's family to finish high school, came to visit every Sunday. We cooked together for the first time, something we'd never done before. I applied to State University, she told me one afternoon, dusted in flour as we rolled pasta dough. Same one as Justin. That's wonderful, I said, truly pleased. Have you picked a major? Social work, she replied. I want to help people. People like you. People who are taken advantage of. I touched her cheek. You're going to change lives, Lily. The case began attracting attention from local media. A journalist named Sarah Jones, who specialized in elder abuse reporting, reached out. First I declined. But something about her persistence, her purpose, made me reconsider. We met over coffee at my apartment. Financial elder abuse is often silent, she said. When it's family, people don't want to talk about it. They're ashamed. They don't want to ruin what little they have left. They also keep hoping, I added, that the person they raised will return to who they used to be. Sarah nodded. Would you be willing to tell your story? Not as a victim but as someone who fought back. It could help others see the signs before it's too late. I thought about everything I had documented. The strategy, the patience, the courage it had taken. Yes, I said at last. But make it clear, this isn't about revenge. This is about taking your power back. When the article published, the response was immediate. I began receiving letters, emails, messages from strangers across the state. Some were from elderly parents sharing similar experiences. Others were from adult children who had recognized the behavior in siblings or cousins. A few were from social workers asking how they could help their clients. With Sarah's help, I started a local support group. We called it Reclaiming Power. It began with 4 members and grew to 15 by the end of the summer. Dorothy attended our second meeting and squeezed my hand as she whispered, "Look at you. Advocate. Organizer. Survivor." I laughed. "Hardly. I'm just someone who learned a lesson the hard way." "But you're turning it into something that saves others the trouble," she said. "That's more than most ever do." And for the first time in decades, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel. Pride. Not in Michael. Not in sacrifice. But in myself. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. On my own terms. 2 weeks before Michael's sentencing, Martin delivered a letter to me. It had come from Michael, passed through legal channels to avoid violating the restraining order. I let it sit on the kitchen table for 3 full days, unopened. I wasn't sure what I expected. Apologies, excuses, manipulation, maybe all 3. When I finally opened it, the handwriting was shaky, the paper thin from where it had been folded and refolded. By the time you read this, I'll have less than a month of freedom left. I've lost everything, my business, my marriage, my home, my reputation. I'll spend my 60th birthday in prison because of what I did to you. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, and I know you well enough to understand you wouldn't give it even if I did. But I need you to know, I understand now. About consequences. About responsibility. About everything you tried to teach me that I refused to learn. When Dad left, I saw what it did to you. But you never blamed him or me. You carried it all. The work, the debt, pain. And somewhere in all of that, I began to believe that someone else would always carry my burdens too. That I was allowed to take because I'd always been given. You were the only person who ever truly loved me without conditions. And I repaid that love with betrayal. I know what I've done. And I know what I've lost. I don't expect a reply. I just needed to say it before I go. Michael. I read it once. Then again. And then I carefully folded it and placed it back in the envelope. Maybe, in another life or another time, those words might have opened something in me. But I had learned, finally and fully, the difference between regret and redemption. Michael had spent 58 years living without accountability. 3 years in a quiet prison cell wouldn't teach him what I couldn't in a lifetime. Some lessons come too late. On the morning of my 61st birthday, the day Michael was to be sentenced, I didn't go to the courthouse. I drove to the coast. The beach was nearly empty, the tide gentle as it rolled in and out like breath. I sat on the sand, the same way I had sat beside my son's hospital bed decades earlier, holding his hand after he'd fallen from that tree. Back then I had told him pain could teach you something. That falling didn't make you weak, It made you wiser. And now, after everything, I finally knew I'd been right. My phone buzzed with birthday messages. Justin, Lily, Dorothy, Martin, even members of the support group. Later, we would gather for dinner in my apartment. Just a few people. Nothing big. But every one of them would be there because they cared about me. Not my money. Not my house. Me. As I watched the waves erase the footprints in the sand, I waited for the satisfaction I thought might come. The justice. The triumph. But what I felt was something else entirely. Freedom. Freedom from the weight of unconditional support that had quietly crushed me for decades. Freedom from the lies I'd told myself to protect someone who never once protected me. Freedom from the hope that someday, Michael would become the man I thought I was raising. When I returned home, I took down the last photo of him. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. But because I knew now it was time. That chapter was over. It had to be, if I wanted the next one to begin. My 61st year wouldn't be about healing from what was broken. It would be about building something new. Not rebuilding. Building. That afternoon I found a small package outside my door. No return address. Just my name written in careful handwriting. Inside was a silver bracelet with a single charm. A phoenix rising from ashes. There was a note wrapped around it. From the Tuesday group. For the woman who showed us all how to rise. I slipped it onto my wrist and felt its weight settle. Not like a burden but like armor. I laid out my watercolor paper, mixed fresh paints, and let the sunlight from my kitchen window fall across the table. With the first stroke of my brush, color bloomed. This wasn't a picture of what I'd lost. It was the start of what I'd found. And this time the canvas was mine. That evening, my apartment filled with quiet laughter, warm voices, and the clinking of glasses. Dorothy brought her famous lemon pie. Martin arrived with a bottle of sparkling juice, and Justin and Lily walked in carrying paper lanterns and a birthday card covered in hand-drawn flowers. The card read, in Justin's neat handwriting, "To the strongest woman we know." We didn't talk about court dates or prison sentences. We talked about books, about Lily's plans for college, about Justin's newest internship. We played a trivia game from the thrift store and laughed when Martin got every single answer wrong about pop culture. It was simple. It was kind. And it was enough. After everyone left, I washed the dishes slowly, taking my time. The bracelet from the Tuesday group caught the light above the sink, the little phoenix charm swinging freely with each movement. I didn't take it off. Felt like a promise, to myself and maybe even to others. Later, I sat at my window with a cup of tea, looking out over the quiet street. I thought of all the versions of me that had existed. The young mother working 2 jobs to pay the mortgage. The woman who skipped vacations, dates, and even friendships to make sure her son had every opportunity. The woman who sat in a cold beige room at Sunny Pines, pretending to be confused while secretly laying the groundwork for her return. I thought of that moment at the door on my 60th birthday, when Michael smiled and said, "Asterisk, you signed the papers." Asterisk, he had no idea what else I had signed. Asterisk asterisk, my own declaration of strength asterisk asterisk, written not in ink, but in silence, in waiting, in action. People often talk about revenge like it's an explosion. Sudden, loud, full of fire. But mine had been quiet, precise, patient. And in the end, it gave me something far more valuable than vindication. Gave me back myself. The next morning, I returned to the library for my usual shift. A little girl named Arya handed me a crayon drawing of a flower. "This is for you, Miss Helen," she said shyly. I smiled and taped it next to my desk. By noon I was shelving new arrivals. By afternoon I was leading a reading circle. That night I picked up my brush again, dipped it into a deep shade of blue, and painted a broad, confident line across fresh paper. I didn't know what the full picture would be yet. I didn't need to. Had time. Time to build. Time to grow. Time to live on my own terms. And from that day forward I lived. Not as someone's mother, not as someone's victim, not as someone's provider or protector, but as Helen Wilson, unbroken, unafraid, and completely, finally free. The story, in every way that mattered, had ended. But my life, my real life, was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, I found myself waking up not out of obligation, but out of curiosity. What could today hold? Not in fear, not in habit, but in choice. The support group at the library grew. More chairs were added. More voices joined. Each meeting began with a moment of silence, not for mourning, but for reclaiming. We didn't share pain just to relive it. We shared to transform it. Sometimes new members would ask how I did it, how I found the strength to fight back. And I would always say the same thing. It wasn't strength at first. It was survival. The strength came later, when I realized I deserved more. I started teaching a short class at the community center. Basic financial literacy for seniors. Nothing fancy. Just how to read a bank statement, how to recognize red flags, how to say no when guilt tries to disguise itself as love. Every time I saw someone's eyes light up with understanding, I knew I was doing the right thing. And yet, even in peace, grief has its quiet edges. There were mornings when I missed the little boy Michael had once been. The one who ran to me with scraped knees and wide eyes. The one who clung to me when thunderstorms shook the house. That child lived inside me still, tucked in a memory that hadn't yet faded. But the man he became, that man belonged to the past, and I no longer lived there. One rainy evening in October, I received a message from the prison chaplain. Michael had asked if I would accept a phone call. I stared at the screen for a while, my tea going cold. Then I typed my answer. Not yet. It wasn't no. It wasn't yes. It was just honest. Maybe one day I'd be ready to hear his voice again. But not yet. 'Cause I was busy. Busy living. Busy laughing. Busy learning to love myself without conditions. Busy painting new pictures with bold strokes and brighter colors. Busy becoming a woman I wish I had met sooner. And in that busy, beautiful, ordinary life, ***, I finally found peace ***.